Hello everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Destiny video. Yesterday, Fantasy Flight released a bunch of yellow spoilers for Across the Galaxy. I'm going to take a look at each card that was spoiled, going to give a breakdown of the card, give my opinions on it, and so on. So first up here, and we're doing these in card order, so number order in the bottom right corner. We have Dryden Voss, Ruthless Crime Lord, 13 health. He's a 15 or 20 point character, depending on if you want to run him as a single die or run him at elite. 2 melee, 3 melee, 2 focus, resource special, and blank. He's a leader, so cards that eventually will synergize with the leader keyword will work with him. And special, shuffle your deck and look at the top card of it. You may play that card for free. So that's a pretty big special, especially if you know like what's in your deck. If you basically have discarded a bunch of stuff to reroll, or already played a bunch of stuff, and you know exactly what's in your deck, you have a chance of pulling one like a really big card to use with this. Imagine like getting something out like a if you're playing him with red, like a planetary bombardment, or if another yellow character, if you're running like Crime Lord, you can get Crime Lord out without paying its resource costs. So then you can use whatever resources you do have to actually use the special on Crime Lord. Another cool thing with him is you can play him with Cunning and trigger Cunning. Use Cunning to trigger the special as well. So his side's seen pretty good. So um, no modifiers or resource costed size. So he's got again a 2, a 3, and a 2. The special is pretty interesting. He's pretty expensive at 20 points, but he does have 13 health. So even if you just used a single die of him, Cunning, and then 15 points worth of other characters, that might be worth it as well. And then also run him at elite, you still have access to 10-point characters as well. So maybe something like a elite Dryden Voss and a single die Price or something like that. They both have melee. Price's ability would synergize with him, to where she would be able to increase the value of his die as you control the battlefield. And then his special to basically play a card from your deck for free after you shuffle it is pretty cool. So that is Dryden Voss. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have First Claim, Yellow Villain Event, 3 resources. Spot a yellow character to gain resources equal to the cost of a support or upgrade in play. So, obviously, you want it to be something that's going to be costing more than 3, so you actually gain some resources from it. So, let's say somebody has like an ATST out, a planetary bombardment, some other high-costed support or upgrade. You pay your 3 resources. You then gain resources to a support or upgrade that's already in play. So if they have planetary bombardment out, you gain 6 resources. They have an ATSC out, you also gain 6 resources. And we just looked at Dryden Voss. This would be an interesting card to use with a special. So if you shuffled your deck and the top card happened to be First Claim, you would basically not have to pay the 3 resources to use it, and then you would just basically get a whole bunch of resources for whatever support or upgrade you use First Claim with. So, really good way to get resources, especially if you have a way to, like with Dryden Voss, play it for free, or some other way to reduce the cost of the event so that you are basically making more money with this card. So that is First Claim. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have Wanton Destruction. So 3 resources, Yellow Villain Event. For each character die showing damage, either ranged, melee, or indirect, deal damage equal to its value to its matching character. So if your opponent has a bunch of character dice rolled out on damage, and you happen to have 3 resources, you can play this, and then deal damage to whatever characters those dice are assigned to. So if your opponent did something that let them activate, like use like Lothwolf Bond or something like that, and activated 2 yellow characters at once. Let's say they're elite characters, so 4 dice total, and they all land on damage. Can spend 3 resources and then deal damage equal to whatever the value on those dice are to the characters that they came off of, that rolled them in. So this could essentially do a ton of damage to even yourself. If you have damage rolled out as well, you're going to be hitting yourself. So it's there's like definitely collateral damage potential with this card. So it's a card you basically want to let your opponent roll out, let them roll well, hopefully. Hopefully they don't have a way to like ambush, resolve, and then resolve their damage before you have a chance to play this. But play it and then deal potentially a massive amount of damage to whatever characters had damage dice showing. So it sounds like it could be a really fun card. So that is Wanton Destruction. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have Lando Calrissian, Smooth and Sophisticated. 11 health, 12 or 15 points, yellow hero character. I find that to be a little weird because in this set, they're doing Han as neutral, they're doing Lando as hero, and you could probably argue, if you've seen the movie, that Han is definitely the more heroic or hero-like of the two characters, and Lando is definitely more neutral, more out for himself, at least in this in Solo. Anyway, back to the card. So 2 range damage, 2 indirect damage, disrupt, resource, 4 resources for 2 resources, blank. He's a scoundrel and a pilot, so when keywords or cards affect those keywords, it'll work with Lando. Power action. Play a yellow vehicle from your hand, decreasing its cost by 1 and giving it ambush. If that vehicle is the Millennium Falcon, you may activate it. So you can use this with, there'll be 3 Falcons in total once this set comes out. There's the Awakenings Falcon, the Falcon from the Luke and Han starter set, as well as the Millennium Falcon coming out with Across the Galaxy. So basically, if you play the Falcon, you get an additional action for playing a vehicle. You can then activate the Falcon as part of the power action, and then immediately resolve the Millennium Falcon with ambush. So that's a pretty strong ability. Pretty strong ability there. Sides are good, so only one that's weird is the 4 for 2, but I think that's kind of fair because it's showing his kind of gambler size. So you're paying 2 resources to make 4. A theory of mine of why they made this hero is potentially maybe with Snoke, Lando would just be too good if he was neutral. So you would have potentially what Snoke's does increases it by 2, so you'd have 4 range, 4 indirect, 3 disrupt, 3 resources, or 6 resources if you spend 2. So that may have been a consideration. I'm not really sure, but Snoke, like the Snoke power action thing, was they were testing that for a while probably and developing it alongside of this. But then I think a lot of people have found other more interesting ways to use Snoke that they weren't considering. So I'm not sure if having him be hero is because of Snoke's power action. That's just a theory, but pretty interesting character. So you can pair him with Han, because I believe Han is 14, maybe he's 15 for Elite. Pair him up with Han. Pair him up. If you do a single, you have 18 points to pair with, and 11 health isn't too bad. And the power action is pretty interesting if you're playing a vehicle deck. So once around, you can basically play a yellow vehicle, decrease it by 1, give it ambush, and then potentially activate it if it's the Millennium Falcon, which is pretty good. So that is Lando Calrissian. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have L337 Droid Revolutionary. 8 health, 8 or 11 points, so there's that 1-to-1 ratio. They really started hitting hard with Way of the Force, where the character's non-elite point value is equal to their health. It's a droid character, so we have 1 focus, 2 focus, discard, shield, resource, and blank. And the interesting thing with this character is this ability. So before this character is defeated, spot a vehicle support to attach this card to it as a 0-cost mod upgrade. If that vehicle is the Millennium Falcon, ready it. If this card would leave play as an upgrade, set it aside instead. So if it basically it gets exiled, if it's on the Millennium Falcon and they destroy the Millennium Falcon, it will then also basically be destroyed with it, and you won't be able to get L337 back out of your discard pile. That would just be weird having characters in your discard pile. I'm sure that's why we're doing that. So pretty good utility stuff here. So we have focus sides, we have discard, shields, and resources, and this cool ability. So spoilers for Solo if you haven't seen Solo. Skip ahead a few minutes, but the droid basically does die, and they hook it into the Millennium Falcon, and basically its entire like subconscious and databases and all that get merged into the Millennium Falcon's computer, and that's kind of why C-3PO in The Empire Strikes Back says the Millennium Falcon's computer has a strange dialect. So a little throwback to that movie, but really cool ability in game to where if this character would be defeated, and maybe you want it to be defeated, so maybe if you're assigning your opponents are assigning a bunch of indirect damage, you throw a bunch of it on her, and then once the character is defeated, you get to attach it to a vehicle, and it becomes an upgrade for that vehicle. So when you roll that vehicle in, you'll roll in the vehicle dice plus these dice. I don't know if there's going to have to be a rule clarification on if when she becomes an upgrade, if she's elite, if you get to keep both dice. That would seem like really strong. So you'd be rolling, let's say, like an X-wing or a Millennium Falcon with her attached to it, and the escape craft. If you're rolling her at elite, so you're rolling the Falcon, you're rolling two L3 through 7 dice, as well as the escape craft. You're rolling 4 dice for the Millennium Falcon. That seems like it might be a little too strong. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a rules clarification stating that if she's elite, both her dice go onto the support, onto the vehicle, or only one does. We'll have to wait and see about that. But seems like a really interesting card because once it's defeated, it still has use. So that is L337. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have Qi'ra, Street Savvy. So a yellow neutral character, 11 health, 13 or 16 points. 2 range damage, 3 range damage for a resource. Discard resource plus 2 resources and a blank. She's a scoundrel. And you can include yellow hero and yellow villain events in your deck. So whatever side you're playing on, you get access to the other side's yellow event cards. So if you're in building a villain deck, you get access to great removal like easy pickings. If you're playing a hero deck, you would of course have easy pickings already, but then you get access to stuff like He Doesn't Like You, which is obviously the better version of Loft Cat and Mouse because you remove one of your dice and then you remove one of theirs. With Loft Cat, your opponent gets to remove one of yours first, and then you remove one of theirs. So she makes deck building really interesting because you can include basically all the really good yellow removal from both sides in a deck that has her in it. So she is 16 points, so she unfortunately actually won't pair with Han. This Han is 15 points, I believe. But there is a card that we'll get to a little bit later that'll actually help with that. So she's 16, he's 15. You can pair, you still do a single Han with her as well. But Qi'ra has some interesting sides. She would be a decent partner for Snoke with the power action for her damage side. So you can turn that 2 to a 4. You can turn that 3 for a resource into 5 for a resource. So nice utility sides as well with her resource, her +2 resource, and the discard as well. So that is Qi'ra. We're going to move into our next card. And finally, we have a plot, no allegiance. It's a negative plot, so -1. So it subtracts 1 from your overall team building score. Include only if you have no hero or villain characters on your team. Each of your neutral characters has +1 health. So this is what I was referring to with Han and Qi'ra. So Han and Qi'ra normally, without this plot, cannot pair together at Elite. You'd have to run one of them at Elite and one of them at a single die for them to pair together without this. So since both of them are neutral, you can use this negative plot, basically drop Han down to from 15 to 14, and now you have a 30-point team with both Han and Qi'ra at Elite. And then they also get +1 health due to this plot as well. So this seems like a really interesting plot, especially if you're just building a team of just neutral characters. I imagine this card would be really interesting in draft because all the characters in the draft pack, so you have Anakin, Lobot, and Ketsu all being neutral characters, Jawa as well. So having them all be +1 health and then having 1 extra point to build with. So you might be able to use some more neutral characters, get this in there, drop one of those points by 1, and then have a full, basically you're having like a 31-point team basically because this subtracts it by 1. So that is No Allegiance, and that is the final card that was revealed. So Across the Galaxy should be coming out sometime in November. As always, there'll be more videos once more cards get revealed. That's going to do it for now. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.